Hello, everybody. I always have to start off with something smooth. This is your boy TP Corleone. You dig? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the TP Live Show on IntellectualRadio.com. iHeartRadio. I started off with something smooth because I have two smooth ladies with me. Of course, you know my co-host, Miss K Joy Superstar, in the building. You know what I mean?
Hello,
Yes,
everyone
yes.
out there.
There you go. There you go. Tuesday night in Chi-Town. And the young lady next to me is a very accomplished lady. I'm glad to have her on my show. She's one of the people that does a lot for the community, not just for the community, for, I would like to say, humankind, mankind, ourselves. You know, there's a lot of people in this day and age that are more into me taking, give me instead of giving back. So this young lady who's very accomplished gives back just based on what she's involved in. Miss Felicia Owens, entrepreneur, certified health coach, wellness expert, radio personality, and more. Thanks and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, TP. Glad to be here.
Oh, thank you so much,
Yes.
Felicia. You're a wellness coach. I just wanted to get right into that, if you don't mind.
I don't mind at all.
Only because wellness is very important, especially nowadays, you know.
It is.
Yeah, so what is it that you actually do being the wellness coach? Because many people have that title. Explain to me exactly what that entails as far as what you do.
So what I do is I help people achieve their health goals by coaching them. I'm really I educate people. That's my strong point, because I find that a lot of people today are just pretty oblivious to healthy lifestyles. We trust doctors 100%, and whatever they tell us to do, we do. And so if I may share my story on how I became a health coach.
Please do.
Okay, thank you. So what happened is around 2007, I moved into a new home. I got a tattoo. And in 2008, I had a what they call a spontaneous pneumothorax, which is, layman's terms, a lung collapse. So I had a spontaneous lung collapse, and it's spontaneous because they don't know what caused it.
No.
And so I was in the hospital. What I thought would be a day or two, I wound up being in for 2 weeks, having surgery.
No.
And yeah, so it was pretty scary. And then 1 year and 1 month later, I had a second lung collapse. Now, the surgery that I had was supposed to prevent me from having another lung collapse. However, 1 year, 1 month later, I had my second lung collapse. So at that time, I had just started working for a chiropractor, and I began to learn about holistic health. And I became very passionate about it because it just made sense. And so 2012, I had my third lung collapse.
No, are you serious?
Yes, and what was really interesting with this one, I went to the ER, and they said, well, your x-rays say you're not having a lung collapse. And I said, I can guarantee you right now as I sit here, I'm having a lung collapse, because I began to know what it feels like. I had gotten in touch with my body. And so sure enough, they did a CT scan, and the doctor says, you know your body, you are having a lung collapse.
Can I ask you what the symptoms are of that, if you don't mind?
Well, they're all pretty different, but there's like just kind of this intuition I think I have that says you're having a lung collapse. So the first one, I thought I was having gas. So it was kind of like a subtle backache, but that wouldn't go away. And so I walked around. At the time I was unemployed. And so my daughters and I walked the mall and took my Lanta. You say, okay, I think I got gas. You just kind of do this thing. And that started maybe about 8 in the morning. So this was about 5:00 p.m. I went to emergency room because I would try to lay down. I said, let me just take a nap. And I couldn't when I would lay down. It wasn't horrible though. It's just like, I just kept feeling like I had to take a deep breath. And when I got there, they called the ambulance. He said, we don't even have what we need to care for you here. Your lung is 100% flat.
Jesus.
And all my vitals were normal.
Jesus, yes.
My oxygen was normal. So it's been a journey from that day on.
Oh, my heart's beating fast. I'm sorry. I don't know if I would have been able to handle that mentally.
it's a lot, you just kind of, you never know what's going to happen when something like that, something tragic kind of happens to you. You
Yeah.
just kind of deal with it as it comes.
You
And
just
so,
kind of know. Your story reminds me of after I'd had breast surgery, and they, when you have surgery, I don't know if they had when you had surgery, were they worried about you not getting blood clots in your legs
yes, and they
from
put them,
being
yeah.
and they put you on, like, keep your legs massaged while you're in the
Yes.
hospital, and you have to get up and walk to keep from getting blood clots, because typically blood clots occur in the legs.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they told me the symptoms, and because I'm like you, I read every little thing. You say something to me, I'm going to research it. I'm going to get online. I'm going to do all kinds of things, because I am in touch with my body.
Yeah.
And I was having a pain above, and I knew it was a blood clot, but I couldn't explain why I knew it was a blood clot.
Right.
I just, intuition,
That's
it
right.
told me. I feel like it was God, bless you, that told me it's a
That's
blood
right.
clot. And I called up the you call back up to the surgeon's office, and I said, look, this is what's going on. My arm is just hurting. It's hurting really bad. And I don't know why, but I feel like it's a blood clot. She says, well, typically you don't get blood clots in the arm. You get them in the legs. I said, I'm telling you now, this is a blood clot. And then she said, okay, if you feel like that, go to the emergency room. I went to the emergency room, and I said, it's right here. I feel like I have at least one blood clot. And they thought I was crazy. And they were like, it's usually doesn't happen in your arms. It usually happens in your legs. I'm telling you, it's in my arm.
That's right.
And when they did the ultrasound, it was a blood clot.
Wow.
It was actually 3.
Are you serious?
Very serious. But if you're not in tune with your body, you would not do those things. And I listen to that still small voice that's inside of me,
Yeah.
because when I feel like something, even if it's just, sometimes I just do it just for my own peace of mind. I hear that in my own, in myself, and then immediately I go. Like when my son, he was a baby, and I was a first time mother. I don't know anything about babies. I don't know about birth of no babies. and something told me, God, right?
Yes.
That he had ear infections in both ears, and he had never had an ear infection. All he did was tug on his ear one time, and I said, he's got ear infections. I know it. I took him to the hospital, and lo and behold, he had ear infections in both ears.
But don't you have to fight with the doctors? Like they
think you're crazy,
and they'll tell you that, because there's just a sense of pride they have with their education and their knowledge. They just feel like they are the know-all, and so you have to really insist and persist that they check out what you're saying.
And
Based on what
sometimes
you
it can
both
be.
said, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, sometimes it can be you're fighting with them, and it could be something life threatening. Like that same thing happened with Ryan. He's allergic to cashews, but he's also allergic to Benadryl. And the chances of somebody being allergic to Benadryl is like a fraction out of hundreds of thousands of people that are allergic.
And that's
And
what
I
they give
told
you.
them, right. And I told him when I got to the hospital, because he broke out in a rash, and I gave him Benadryl for the first time ever. And then he broke out in a worse rash.
Oh.
So they thought that I was stupid and I couldn't distinguish between one rash versus another. And then he said, well, no, it's certainly not Benadryl. You're probably just confusing it with the other rash. I said, no, I think I know the difference between a rash that stays and a rash that's moving all up his neck, and it's red and it's on fire. And I said, this happened immediately upon me giving him Benadryl. Well, no, he's not allergic to Benadryl. So they didn't believe me. 2 hours had passed, and they came back and gave him Benadryl, but I'd given him generic. So, that's not quite the same strength. They gave him full blown brand name Benadryl.
Prescription
brand, gave it to him, and within seconds they walked out the room, and I nurse, you need to come back in here and get the doctor. And he came back, he says, oh my God. He's like, I'm so sorry. He really is allergic to Benadryl.
Duh. Well, you know what that proves to me? That I've always felt that we are our own doctor first. If you think about the history of medicine, think about who was the first doctor. It had to be some cats that were in tune to their bodies, like you are, and in tune to nature. Not to get on that subject, because I want you to finish how you got to that, But it had to be somebody that was in tune to their body and nature at the same time, and figure it out somehow, that voice in their head, like you mentioned, well, this thing in nature looks like or feels like or tastes like it could work on this particular symptom I'm having at this now. So we are our first doctors primarily. And then if you don't have maybe access to certain herbs and medicines or machines or whatever tools, then maybe you should go to see a professional physician. But again, that proves that they really are still, if you notice, they say they are practicing.
Practicing.
Yes.
They are not masters nor experts. I give them credit and so forth for what they are trained to do. But like yours tell, by only was officially officially allow for them to study and so forth. You dig what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, and you prove
They
that.
have book knowledge.
Yeah,
So
book knowledge.
they have
Yeah.
book knowledge, and doctors should really be reserved for emergencies
There you go.
because they're
Yeah. Yeah.
but we also need chiropractors, we
Yeah.
also have naprapaths, massage. We and so you find that there's a program that's coming on today called I Beat the Odds. Have you seen it? Mm-hmm. It's on cable.
I think I heard it, but I can't remember what was the show. Can you tell me?
So I just started taping it. I don't even know how I found this show. I think I was just kind of going through. I'm a guide,
Yeah,
I am a guide all the time. And so I was like, let's see what this is. And I taped it. And so one day I was at home, just kind of. I had some time.
Yeah,
so I was like,
okay.
let me watch this show. And I just watched about 6 episodes. And it's a 30-minute program about people who have these diseases or illnesses that the doctors can't diagnose or say, go home or you don't have it. And so then they find themselves in a holistic atmosphere, or they might find it themselves, but they wind up getting cured because saying there's nothing wrong with you.
Right.
So it's a really great show, and I was watching it last week or maybe 2 weeks ago, and someone had fibromyalgia. Now I've been diagnosed with fibromyalgia, and I never believed it. I was like, what is fibromyalgia?
That's my question.
Fibromyalgia, I thought, was something that they give to you when they can't find what's wrong with you, but you're in pain all over your body all the time.
Okay.
And so I was like, that's not even a real, diagnosis. They've just made up a name. Well, so on this show, there was a particular lady that had fibromyalgia. She was diagnosed with it. And they said there's 3 symptoms that people with fibromyalgia have, and it's common among them. Number 1, they have low serotonin levels, and your serotonin levels is your happy, what makes you happy, right? And then your dopamine levels it helps you feel pleasure. They have low dopamine. And then they have a deficiency in the growth hormone factor. I didn't know what that was, so I looked it up. And sure enough, I had all these symptoms. The growth hormone factor is responsible for your muscle cells, your muscle growth. And so my muscles had begun to atrophy, and that means they just begin to decrease. I mean, like, I just noticed that I was very weak, and I started noticing my thigh muscles kind of look like now I'm a small girl, and it started looking like I had cellulose. I was like, what?
Okay. Yeah.
And so my muscles were atrophying. That's the medical term for it. But I was like, okay, so fibromyalgia is real. But what I had already been doing, there's a natural product called 5-HPT, and I certainly cannot pronounce what the acronym stands for. Okay. It's a long name, but it's a natural antidepressant made from like an African herb or something. And so I had been taking that, or I had been introduced through a health coach years ago, and I would kind of take it on and off, and I call it the happy pill. So I would even give it to my daughters because we had been through a lot of stress and things in our life. So I said, you know what, just take a happy pill. Last year, my naturopath said, you need to take things consistently because you'll stop and you kind of like cut off the progression that's going to, provide
and
the
that
healing.
Sound familiar. That my naturopath doctor has said the same thing to me.
Well, that's what we do. We feel better, so we think we don't
need to take that anymore.
Now. I'm good now. I don't need that no more.
But I started taking it at night on a regular because it also helps you sleep. So, and I found that because they say after all my research, I'm an educator. Like you said, I pull up the internet, I pull out books, and it said that your brain is responsible for your pain. So technically, if your brain is overreading something, for me, I felt like it was reading my pain, and I'm very sensitive to pain. I don't like pain. Most people don't, but I don't have a high tolerance. Mm-hmm. And so as I began to take the 5-HTP consistently, the pain signals were less.
All right.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm curious now, you said is was brought on. One of these symptoms or one of the things that trigger fibromyalgia is depression. Was the depression brought on through life experiences, or was just mental depression based on something chemically in your brain?
So that didn't trigger the fibromyalgia, but they
Okay.
find that to be common, the deficiency to be common among
Oh, I
people
got you. It's a
with
deficiency
fibromyalgia. See,
of
yeah,
it.
fibromyalgia is a nervous system condition,
Okay.
and something's going on in your nervous system that is off, and it's causing
The
so your
pain.
nervous system is saying pain to all
I
these
got you.
different areas that
And they have a deficiency of that.
and
the
so they have a
serotonin.
deficiency of serotonin, dopamine, and
Dopamine.
the growth hormone factor.
Okay.
That actually makes sense to me now, because I've been a massage therapist for 14 years and I've had numerous clients who have fibromyalgia. And when you get to know repeat clients who come to you on a weekly or a monthly basis, they start to divulge personal things about themselves.
Yeah.
And when I think back to it, the people who had fibromyalgia had a lot of stress or depression issues.
Mm-hmm.
And now that makes complete and total sense to me.
And no one has ever explained it like that. So I'm like, I don't have fibromyalgia. My body hurts and we can't figure out why. But the other thing, so let me answer your question. You said, did something bring on the depression, or did I just? So I definitely, since 2008, since the first lung collapse, I have had major stresses. So usually they talk about if you have like super major stresses, the top 5 or whatever, that can cause a whole lot of chaos in your body. And I've had the top 5 since '08. Every year I've gone through traumatic losses and changes in my life. And it's been, I'm surprised I'm still alive. And so the ability, that intuition, that Holy Spirit that dwells inside of you begin to say, try this and try that. So I would go down to Chinatown and try herbs, and they have all the various teas. Teas are awesome. So every morning I drink tea, and it's depending on how I feel. So I have a shelf over 100 teas, and if I wake up and I'm feeling joint pain, I have a joint pain tea. If I wake up and I'm feeling anxious, I have, chamomile tea.
So is it effective?
Very much so. Yes.
Okay. Wow, that's interesting.
So just for clarification purposes, so people don't think, oh, well, she's just called herself a health coach, or she's calling herself a wellness coach. What is your background, and is this something that you had to go to school for? What gives you your expertise and your credentials so that someone who doesn't really know anything about this would feel confident and comfortable in your abilities to coach them?
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you. That's a great question.
Yes, it is.
So yes, I have a certification. I went to school for a year online through a school called the Institute of Integrative Nutrition in New York City.
Okay.
And at the time, this was 2012. And I was enrolled in a master's program at Benedictine University. So I did both these programs at the same time.
Wow.
So talking about stress, right?
Yeah.
Like I didn't have enough already.
Mhm.
But I said in 2009, I started working for a chiropractor, and that's where my love really grew. It was Chiro One. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. Chiro One Wellness is pretty popular. I think they're called Medulla now. But we had education every week. We would have doctors come out, different people would come out and speak and educate us on various things. And then we would go out with some of the chiropractors and I went to a fibromyalgia seminar that one chiropractor was doing. And so that's kind of how I learned about it from the beginning. So my passion grew. I kept going through, because after the lung collapses, I began to develop autoimmune issues.
Seriously?
Yeah. And so it really just started declining. I always worked out. Now, I wasn't a great eater, but I was pretty health conscious, but I ate a lot of junk. I will admit to that. And then I even learned that years and years of birth control pills, it breaks down your immune system.
Yes, it's horrible.
So many things we do that we don't realize. I always had digestive issues, so I lived on Mylanta. I kept Mylanta in the house, and that can break down all these medications, the side effects over long-term use is going to break down your system.
That's sad.
Yeah, it really is. And so I was having a lot of issues. And when I was at the chiropractor, we got free chiropractic. So I was feeling really good. And, I was you can go to any chiropractor in Chicago, and they had lots of offices all over. Well, once I left there, that's, things kind of started breaking down because I wasn't getting the care that I had been getting. And so I'm not really sure. I can't remember how I found this place, but I called them up and I said, man, I would love to do this program. I said, but I'm in a program already and I'm afraid that this is going to be too much. And she goes, no, it's at your own pace. You do it online. They actually send you an iPad. And so all their lesson is on the iPad, and you have to pass like 6 or 7 tests. You get your own health coach that works with you through the program, and then you have to coach so many people. You have to. That's part of your assignment, and you have to test. And so after a year of training, I got my health coach certification, which also we consider drugless practitioners. So there are even some pharmaceutical companies that sell natural products that only sell to practitioners that I'm allowed to have those
Great.
products.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
awesome.
What's so great about that is your health issues inspired you to research, and
Yes.
the research inspired you to become certified in this where you can help others. So that's great.
Yes.
That's really great, and I commend you on that.
Thank you.
Seriously,
My
seriously.
misery became my ministry.
Yeah, ain't that
And I'm
something?
so passionate about it. But here's the funny thing. We do not want to be well. That's what I've come up with. And
Amen.
it's a mindset. So when I was saying before how the doctors, we just give them 100% of our trust, and I did too, until they started to fail me. So I don't look at people and say, shame on you, because I was there.
Of
And it
course.
took my illness to bring me to a place, my illness and their inability to effectively help me, to make me look into something else and say, how can I, fix this, God? How can we do this? Because, I call on God all the time.
Yeah.
And I find that I can't explain a lot of things that he introduces me to. I'm just like, it's God, because I really can't
Amen.
explain how I found that. But I want to help people so much, and people are almost threatened by that, like, oh, you want to give it away, then maybe it's not right. It's a crazy phenomenon
Like you
that
said, people don't want to be well,
they don't want.
and you're actually programmed to not want to be well, or it's just mainstream is always like pumping that and promoting that.
Yeah.
Every time you turn on a television, every TV show, there's some kind of pharmaceutical company that's, well, in business, keep it real, you have to create the demand for your supply. So they
Yes.
put it in your head, these new diseases that many of us have. 90% of these diseases that I'm aware of now, when I was a kid, I didn't know anything
Never
about.
existed.
The most I've seen on television were back pain and colds and flu. Now there's like 1,000 diseases that I've never heard of that the pharmaceutical companies let you be aware of because I have the cure for it. Not saying they don't play a part. They can play a good part in your life if you feel you need that. But we give up on wanting to be able to heal ourselves. So your desire to be healed is what led you to this,
Yeah,
because you
and
didn't
my
give
low
up
tolerance for pain.
that. All right, there you go.
Because
There
I
you
just
go.
can't stand pain. But I've watched a couple people die just recently. One young lady used to be my neighbor. She was diagnosed with breast cancer. They told her she had 2 years to live, and that always pisses me off, because how dare you? You can say, from what
You're
we
not
see,
God. You can't
right,
tell me when I'm going to
right.
die.
But you can say, from what we see, the progression of this disease will get rapid over a 2-year period, or find a way to say it without
Reword it.
right, because right
Making
then
it
and
so
there,
final and
Because you know what you say to someone, it gets into their psyche, and your mind, it almost takes over in some cases, unless you have strong enough faith to not allow that to happen. But what happens is the person accepts what's been told to them, and then they start to speak that death into
and they
their
receive
lives.
it. And actually,
Yeah.
there's research that proves when you are told that you have a life threatening disease, the toxins in your body increase.
shut up.
A
Yeah.
huge percent of toxins, because the stress in your body. So immediately you've taken that negative information
Yeah.
and you've processed that, and now it's really affecting your body.
Wow.
So I mean, that should be illegal
Yeah.
for them to be able to say that. But
They
they
call that the power of suggestion. That's the same. Actually, that's the same techniques that people back in the day for stage shows used to use when they would hypnotize people. The same thing. That's the same exact programming they use when they would tell
Wow.
her you have so much time to live. Look it up. Yeah, that's heavy. That is heavy.
Well,
though.
she lived 6 years, but
Amen.
she only went to doctors. So like I would take her things over there. I even told her about this place I went to called the um I've told you about it in California, in San Diego, the Optimum Health Institute.
Okay.
And it's a 21-day detox program. They have a garden. You only eat vegetables, and they're really high on wheatgrass. But they have a chiropractor on site, so you live there. You can take 7-day intervals. So I went for 7 days. And the people that are there, there was a testimony of a young lady there who was, doctor told her she only had a few weeks to live. She came there. You start eating grass and weeds,
The things
Yeah.
that we ate in the very beginning.
that God gave us.
Right.
You know, natural
It's not
things.
so far fetched.
This woman had been there when I got there. She had been there maybe a month or two. Went back to her doctor. They didn't see any sign of cancer. And then they told her, "Well, just keep doing what you're doing." They didn't even want to know.
Yeah,
They
don't
don't
want to
want,
know
you know what? They don't want to know.
because they can't
But
get out.
they don't want to know, but then they will, if the doctor is good, they'll tell you to keep doing what you're doing. I experienced that same exact thing when I get my test. I will go to a regular doctor because I feel that they have a part to play
Yes,
and a
they do.
purpose.
With the tools.
So
and
I'm not
forth.
anti-doctor.
Yeah.
I will go to my doctor regularly to get my checkups, to get whatever it is that I'm supposed to get to keep me healthy in terms
That's
of
right.
checking.
They're getting tested.
But then
right.
I get my test, and then I call my acupuncture doctor, my naturopathic doctor,
Yes.
and then I go and get my colonics, and I go and do other things and get my herbs that are prescribed to me by the naturopathic doctor to work hand in hand with the doctor.
As a
So
team.
I got, for the first time ever, when I was 48 last year, he said, "Oh, your cholesterol is high. I need to put you on statins." And then I said, "Absolutely not. You will not put me on statins. Statins ruin your organs. And I'm not going to go on statins because
for
I'm
you.
going to reverse this the natural way." Well, I just really don't. I feel really, really uncomfortable about that. And obviously I can't make you take these prescription drugs. And he's not, in his defense, he does not push drugs on me just in general. Like
Great.
whenever I go there, well, let's try to see if we can do something a different way. But if you need a prescription, here it is. It's not like you have to do it, you have to do it. But he was really trying to get me to change my mind about this. And I said, "Listen, Dr. So-and-so," because I'm not going to say his name, "just give me 3 months and I'm going to come back here and I won't have high cholesterol." I said, "This is a fluke." And I said, because number one, I've been on the depot shot, and I believe that it's altered my body
Yes,
and it's
it
altered my
does.
hormones. And it
Yes.
was you who told me that. And that's what made me go and say, I want off of this shot, which ended up being the best thing that could have happened to me, because the nurse practitioner agreed with you and said, "Yeah, you do need to come off of this shot. It's messing your body up." And I said, "I know that this high cholesterol has something to do with that shot, as well as some other things that I'm doing, eating incorrectly, that I know better."
Right.
I used to run a diet class. I know better. But we don't always do what we
That's
know.
right.
Right.
That's
And
right.
so I went to Whole Foods. I called my naturopathic doctor up. I went to the acupuncture doctor every 2 weeks. I did all these things. I came back, got tested, and he's like, I don't know what you did, but you need to keep doing it, because
Wow.
the cholesterol's completely back to normal. It's almost like you never had high
That's
cholesterol.
what's up. Yep.
Isn't that great?
Yep.
He said, "I'm glad you stuck to your guns."
And
Interesting.
that's what people don't do. They allow the doctors
Tell
to
them anything.
And so this young lady that I mentioned that had the breast cancer, she was on chemotherapy. She did chemo and radiation, on and off, but she was on chemo the entire 6 years.
Yeah.
The entire 6
That
years.
ravages
and then
your body.
She wound up getting some clots in her head.
Oh.
And she just rapidly declined. But I tried to get her to go to the Optimum Health Institute while it was early on.
But she never. But did she finally go
Never
ever?
went. She never went. She would try some of the things that I would bring over, but like the doctor was telling me, you have to be consistent with that.
Yeah.
And especially if you're getting chemo, they
Yeah.
were trying all kind of stuff on her,
Yeah.
chemo pills. They just tried all kind of new medication on her. It was very sad.
Well, that's sad to hear. And the thing about consistency is, whether it's taking chemo treatments or anything that we're doing bad for our bodies, just our lifestyle itself. I mean,
Yeah.
we're consistent on drinking beer. We're consistent on drinking
We
alcohol,
sure are.
smoking, eating pork. So if you trying to cure something or at least get well, you should be as just like your doctor said, be consistent in the treatments. And me, I'm guilty of that too.
I think we all
I
are.
do something for a couple of weeks, I feel good. I'm straight now,
Yep.
Then another week the symptoms come back,
Yeah.
So
Well, life happens.
yeah,
Life happens and gets you off track
yeah.
It
of what you
does.
were doing, the stress of life, unexpected things happen. That at least
Distractions,
that's my
period.
own personal experience is that
Yeah.
distractions will get you off of your A game and will
Yeah.
get you off of whatever program and schedule you set yourself on in order to be healthy. The key is it's not always the fact that you've fallen, it's the fact that you get back up.
That's
There
right.
you go.
That's
All
right.
right. All right, Donnie McKirkland. Okay. We get back up, baby.
We fall
Okay,
down.
yeah. I likes that. I don't want to keep dwelling on this, but I just am curious about when you had your second and third lung collapse.
Uh-huh.
Was it the same lung or a different
It's
one?
always been the
It's
same
always been the
lung.
same one.
By the second one, I think I had the surgeon and my lung doctor, the pulmonologist, got together and came up with maybe this is something else. So there was something called a catamenial pneumothorax, right? We getting real deep here, right?
Okay, yes.
And so that says that it's brought on by my hormones, my female hormones. So as a result of that, I wound up getting this was my third one, because after that diagnosis, I got a hysterectomy, my choice. No one told me to do that because I felt like, okay, if this is going to keep doing this, I'm going to get a hysterectomy. Now, I did some research on it and found a website for a set of twins who are, I'm going to say they're probably in about mid 50s now, who dedicated this website to catamenial pneumothorax.
Oh, wow.
They had this and they chronicled their story and allowed people to come in and share. I mean, and it was wonderful because they were twins. And you know what? I think one was married and one wasn't. But it was amazing that they shared the same symptoms. And when one would have a pneumothorax, then the other one would a few months later. When one had the surgery, then another one had the surgery. But this other one had the surgery, and whatever they had done the research and knew that, well, if she has the surgery, because whatever was going on with her kidneys, her kidneys can something can happen with her kidneys, which actually did. It was just amazing. So that website helped me so much, kind of just really learn about that disease and some of the things to expect. And so even when I went into surgery, I said, now I could have a lung collapse because when you put me on the gas, that could do something to my lung. So they prepared for that, with me telling, so I was able to go in and tell them. Now, after that, I continued to have pain in my lungs. I felt like it was small lung collapses. So I was like, okay, what the ladies did online that I didn't do, they had a second lung surgery. And I forgot what it was called, but you put talc on the lungs. And I was a little nervous about that. Actually, another pulmonologist recommended that for me at the University of Chicago because I got a second opinion. And I was like, I tell you what, if I have another collapse, we'll go that route. But right now, I don't want to go under that kind of gun, and I don't know what that foreign substance in my body would do. So I didn't get it done. But that's what those ladies did. And I actually go on that site periodically. They've closed it down where people can't come on and comment anymore, but they haven't had any more lung collapses since then.
What site is that again?
If you Google catamenial pneumothorax, it'll show up. It's like, I forgot their names, but like something sisters, whatever their last name is. And it's a whole site that they've dedicated. It's really something.
So you have been speaking about how different sites and different resources and chiropractors and naturopathic doctors and naturopaths, how everyone has helped you. Can you talk a little bit more about how you have helped other people? I know you've helped me personally on numerous occasions, but I would like for you to share specific cases where you've helped people as a health coach.
Well, okay, I worked for two different companies online, and they were health coaching companies. One was called Kumu, and they actually shut down. And then I actually forgot the name of the other company. But what we would have, they made little, you know how you got the Fitbit thing. So it was a little site like that where people would go on, they would sign up, and then they would be assigned to a health coach. And so then we would get like a ring or something and let us know we had a new client. One of the companies, we actually had to do one FaceTime with them. So we had to do a Skype. And then the rest of the time we would kind of be online. And so you might have 10 clients at a time. And so you just emailing them. And I think the goal at that time, we had to email them at least twice a day or something. And we had to get back to them within 24 hours. So there was this whole little setup, kind of like an Uber thing for health. So I was with 2 companies like that. That's how I did it professionally. But on my own, I would go to people's houses and I help them.
Wow.
They call me up and, I give them advice. I was just talking to my cousin. He lives in San Francisco and he's got this kind of persistent little cough. And I said, you need some activated charcoal. And he was like, well, where do I get it from? You told me that and I need some, but where do I get? So you go to the health food store because I really want to give back. Now, I know that's not practical, not to try to make money off of it, but I know that people need help and a lot of people are suffering. We're going through a financial crisis in this world that people just don't have it. So I would love to be able to have a non-profit health site where people can physically come in. And that's something that I'm kind of thinking about how I can make this happen. But I've gone to people's houses, even at the job, I work at a residential property and people come down all the time. So I have this one lady at the property who has she has a benign tumor in her head that's causing her not to be able to hear. And then she can hear her heartbeat really loud. It's really weird. So they're giving her radiation now. So I'm helping her. I'm saying, listen, I actually wrote a note for her to give to the doctor because she's older, so she's not asking questions. They told her she needed a few treatments. They got her down for all of March and all of April, 5 days a week, 30 minutes a day of radiation. I was like, girl, that's too much.
And the tumor is benign.
It's benign, and it hasn't been bothering her. Yeah, I mean, she's got these issues, but I said, so I actually did a field trip to the health food store, and I took some of my residents, and they got magnesium, whatever their issues were, because I kind of listened to them. But so they called me the bag lady at work because I carry this bag. It's in my car now.
Okay.
And I buy supplements and I share them all the time. So the kids come in all the time, and if they got a cold, they come see Miss Felicia. Oh, Miss Felicia, something's hurting. You got anything for this? I really consider myself the tea lady because I can bring you guys tea. I was telling TP that I came straight from my daughter's school because I had to drop her back off at school. So went out there 3 hours, hung out, came back 3 hours, and came straight here. So I usually would, bring you a little taste of tea. I have to send you something.
Well, you owe me some tea, okay?
I do. Yes, I do.
You know what? Hearing you speak about how you would visit people and so forth, I had some flashbacks of throwback doctors. So I watch a lot of westerns and old movies.
That's
TMC.
how they used to do it back in those days.
They would go to your house,
house call.
And not just that, doctors even like in their turn of the century or the late last century, they were really called to be doctors. They weren't really drawn to the field for a financial gain. Although you should expect to get paid for your services, don't get me wrong, but they were called to be a physician because they had genuine care of healing someone, and so you are a throwback to those doctors from what I get from you. I'm really impressed from that. Yeah. Do you feel that way?
I do. Yeah. I feel like what's missing today is the personal touch.
Yes.
And let me share this story with you guys, how my doctor just threw me out of her office. Okay.
No.
So remember I told you I've been going through, for years now, like every year. It's been so much that I just wrote a timeline, just the major things. And I found that there was probably 2 major things each year.
Okay. Yeah.
So this particular, I found this doctor 2 years ago. Going online looking for holistic. I wanted a medical doctor who could write prescriptions if necessary, but also somebody who was holistic. So that's called functional medicine. Most of that's medical doctors who study holistic practices, and they combine the two. So I found this lady by my house out in Flossmoor, really great African lady, very thorough. Very serious about her job, and very holistic. So she had just started to transition. She even talked about having me come on as a health coach with her.
Okay.
Because I would talk to her, we have conversations. And so as fate would have it, financially I had been struggling, right? So I owed maybe like $150. Now I thought I owed about $60. For doctors, that's not a lot of money. I mean, people owe all the time.
Mhm.
So I went, and I hadn't been to her in a while because I started seeing a naturopath that she recommended that shares the office with her. She comes as needed. And so since I had been going to the naturopath, I hadn't been going back as much. I had been feeling really pretty good. So I went a few weeks ago, maybe about 2 months ago, to just kind of
Just
get a
recent.
physical and, start having some little pains. I said, well, let's see what's going on.
Mhm.
And so I went into the office, and her office manager came out and she said, well, you have a balance. I said, I know. I said, so when I come, I make a payment. And so she said, well, we need you to make $50 today. Now they had called me a couple times that day. So I said, well, I don't have 50 today, I have 25. So by this time they had put me back in the room. She says, well, I'm gonna need you to come out because if you don't have the 50. I said, well, what? I'm looking just like you. Like, what? I said, well, so what I do, I can make 25 and then we can make a payment arrangement. So I said, how much is it anyway? She goes, 150. So I'm saying, why is it 150? Now this doctor, what she would do, I would be there 2 hours from day one. My appointments were 2 hours. Now I'm not just sitting back chatting like I'm doing with you guys.
Yeah.
She would be in and out, but because she was thorough, that's a trade-off. You're like, okay, I got to
Yeah.
give 2 hours if I got to do that because she's good.
Yeah.
Well, come to find out, at some point she began to charge twice for one visit if she was with you more than 30 minutes.
And
Serious?
even though it was her fault that she
Her
was with you
fault, and
for
she
more than
didn't
30
tell you
minutes.
that she changed this policy. So we're going over the bill, and I'm like,
Oh.
why am I charged twice on these dates? She said, oh, well, that's her time, and her time is valuable. I said,
Mine is too, baby.
But you need
but
to
guess what?
inform me ahead
Her
of
time is
time.
valuable, and I
Yeah.
understand that, but why didn't I get notified? Because now I'm paying twice where the insurance not going to pay two
Right,
co-pays.
right.
So now that's going to make the bill even more. So I'm like, okay, I need to talk to the doctor. Well, no, she's not going to talk to you. And then I'm going to need you to step out the office. I was like, okay, wait, something's not right here.
Right.
So I get my things and I go to the lobby and I said, listen, I need to talk to the doctor. So she comes out and she doesn't look at me, and they go in the room and talk.
Oh.
And the manager comes back out and said, no, she's not going to talk to you. And I
Yeah.
said, okay, well, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to wait. So she says,
That's a coward. She can't even look you in the eye. And now she can't face you. That's a coward. But anyway, I didn't mean to cut you in.
but no. And so I said, well, I'm going to wait. She goes, well, you can't make her see you. I said,
Right.
no, but I'm going to wait because here's what I'm going to let you know,
Right.
that she's at risk of losing a client. And so, yeah, I owe $150. That's not going to make or break anybody. But if you tell me that, we're talking $25 now, because all you tell me I have to pay is 50 today. So you're going to lose me over $25.
Right.
But
That-
you will get your balance.
Which is short-sighted.
Okay.
You
go
put
ahead.
it had she
Right.
just taken the $25, then she would have been able to
She
get
would've
the
gotten
rest
the
of her
whole
money.
thing.
She would have gotten the whole
Absolutely.
thing. But
That's
that's
not even good
that's a
business.
short-sighted
Yeah.
way of thinking.
That's
Oh
small
my
time and petty.
gosh. I left
Mhm.
there in tears because
Sad.
after waiting about 40 minutes, she would not see me. And I said, you know what? And matter of fact, the reason I went, it wasn't for testing. It was because I felt like I had really had a lung collapse the week before, and I had gone to ER.
So it
And
was
they
something
didn't see
serious.
anything. Yeah, they didn't see anything on the X-ray. But again, I knew it was a collapse because it was hard. I was like, dang, I ain't had a collapse. So even I was talking to the doctor in ER, and I said, listen, it never shows up on the X-ray. It has to be a CT scan. And she says, listen, I had prayed. I said, God, help me have a intelligent conversation with the doctor because I don't want to fight today. And she did just that. She sat down, young black lady. She said, listen, you know your body. So you tell me, what do you want to do? If you want a CT scan, I'll give it to you, but I don't want to expose you to that much radiation if I don't have to. She said, because I don't want it on my watch that you later got cancer from too much radiation exposure. She said, so what do they normally do? I said, you know what? This is a great conversation already, because you're right. The CT scan will show I'm having it, but if I'm not losing oxygen, they don't do anything. They let me sit in the hospital and they watch me for a day. So you're right. This would be a waste of money, time, and radiation
Exposure to radiation. Right.
So we had a great conversation, and I decided I'm going to go home, and if I feel that it's just really bad, I'll come back. Because at that time I was going to see my daughter too, and I didn't want to get on the road if it was really bad. So it wasn't showing up on the X-ray. We felt like it probably wasn't that big of a collapse, even though it was causing me pain.
Okay.
And so, but my doctor wound up putting me out, and they tell her when I go to ER. So I had just been to ER. I'm trying to follow up on that visit, and you won't even see me because of a $25 difference. I left there in tears, but I went home and I decided I'm going to find me a doctor. And so I found a medical doctor that practices functional medicine, and he is phenomenal. And I've been going to him.
You know what?
Great.
Sometimes you think that it's a door being closed, but it's actually a door that should be closed because that's not where you should be.
Exactly.
And God is sending you somewhere else
Yes.
to where you really are supposed to be, and you won't know if you're in the wrong
If I
place.
continue
There
to
you
Keep
go.
going in the
that
right.
place,
You're
yes.
going in the wrong direction, and you're not listening.
Yes.
And so it's like, okay, let me shut this so you can listen and go that way.
And he's really been a blessing. So yes.
Great. I'm glad to hear that, and I just feel bad that you have to go through that, but she lost a great client.
No,
Simple as that,
Thank you. And I did, you know what I did? I went onto that web page that show, you look at doctors
Comments.
Yeah.
and her numbers went down when I put the comments in.
Go
And I
ahead.
wasn't mean, saying nasty things. I just
You're
told
just trying
the
to
truth.
inform
Just being
people.
honest.
Right. I said, because I don't know what happened is they've been nice up until now. The customer
Yeah.
service was pretty good. So I'm not quite sure if something
Well, the
occurred.
dollar ruled over, helping,
the almighty
as opposed to the kind of practitioner you are, so to speak.
Yeah, and
you
I
know.
think that they're getting a lot of flack from the insurance companies. I really do, from the pharmaceutical
Oh,
companies.
yeah.
They're getting pressured. Hey,
Oh,
you can
yeah,
only
you
spend
gotta
15
dispense
minutes.
these
Yeah, they
drugs,
got. Yeah,
so you
yeah,
got to push these drugs on out,
yeah.
Yeah, well, just so people can know what show they are watching and tuned into, we're going to do a little station break. This is the TP Live Show on IntellectualRadio.com, iHeartRadio, with Miss Felicia Owens. Great to have you here. I want to touch on something else I mentioned earlier before we go, because time is winding down. See, when we're having fun,
We were having
it
fun.
just goes, And I always say I want you to come back, but I want the good people to come back, because you have so much to talk about. But you are also in radio, like we are. Talk about
I
that.
am.
Let's talk about that. You want to?
Yes, I
All
would
right.
love to, and I
Yeah.
don't want to pub my show
Just
on
go
here.
ahead. You can do that. It's my show, baby. Do your thing.
Okay, TP. Well,
Mhm.
I am a DJ at WZONradio.com. It's an internet radio station, global station, and my show is Joy in the Morning, and I bring you melodies from heaven. And I like to say that it's a show that brings you inspiration, hope, and healing. And so I share some of my health tips. I play, nice gospel music and sometimes inspirational, uplifting music.
All
And I
right.
might play, clips from a comedy show and, get you laughing. But I always give out free tickets to heaven. So at
Wait a
right
minute.
around about an hour and a half into my show, I open the doors of the church, as they would say in the Baptist church, and I have, if anybody's listening that don't know the Lord, I invite them to know the Lord by repeating the Lord's, the prayer of salvation with me, and I do that every show.
Oh yeah, that
And
is
when
so
is your show?
nice.
What time is it air?
My
What day
show
of the
is
week?
Saturday mornings from 8 to 10 a.m. And you can download the app if you have an iPhone. I'm not sure if it's on Android phones yet, but if it isn't, you can go to www.wzonradio.com. And we also have a Facebook page. And so that's how we interact. You can call in. I haven't accepted callers yet. I've been doing it 2 years, and that's something. But I do Facebook interactions. So people kind of interact on Facebook a lot when we're on our show. So
Oh, that's nice.
check
That's
it out.
nice. Yeah. So send me a link to that as well in my inbox if you don't mind, or text
sure
it to
will.
me, because I definitely would love to check it out.
I sure will.
Are there any other sites or social media where you can be contacted at if people want to talk to you, or maybe just get some advice, or just see what you're about? Is there any way they can get in contact
Yeah,
with
right
you?
now I'm working on my Facebook page, but they can contact me at Little Angels Wellness, one word, Little Angels with an S, Wellness at gmail.com. And so they can email me, and I'd be happy to, offer any advice on things I know. I do have a plethora of information of just holistic health care. Even on my show, I try to give out tips. Garlic, just plain garlic. If you chop up a garlic clove and I put it in the freezer so that you don't have to taste it, and then chop it up, take it out, and just swallow it like a pill. First thing on an empty stomach, it does wonders. It will lower your blood pressure. It will fight infections because it's a natural antibiotic. It's an anti-inflammatory. So I try to even just use household products that doesn't cost a lot, that will help people, and they can do it on a regular without having those side effects. Then, there there might be some natural things that people are allergic to. I've had, like fruit or like you said, your son's allergies. But sometimes you find if you do detoxes and get your cells cleansed of a lot of the things that your cells are holding on to, then you won't be allergic to some of those natural things.
One of my allergies was reversed with not chiropractic, but acupuncture treatment.
Because it helps flow, it helps things flow, it removes the stagnancy.
Stagnant chi.
Stagnant chi.
Yeah, your chi, which is your energy.
Yes,
and it's basically your life force. So he was able to reverse my corn allergy because I love my popcorn.
So now you can eat corn now?
I had to have 3 treatments because it didn't take at first, and he said sometimes when it's pretty stubborn, you have to do it more than once. But now I don't have that allergy anymore.
Well, and then the other thing that was that genetically modified corn. Like corn is one of the largest products that they're genetically modifying. So that's the thing. They don't have to label it, and we don't know what we're eating.
Don't depress me, because I was just thinking about that today. I was at my job. I walked past in the Arbonne Pond. We're going to wrap it up in a minute, but real quick, I walked past in the Arbonne Pond, and they had a bag of popcorn which said light popcorn, no GMO. So I'm thinking, so you have to advertise that there's no GMO, which means I guess all this other stuff I'm eating is GMO. I got so depressed. You know what I mean?
You never know. And so, I've never taken the Lord's Prayer so serious now over your meals. We used to do it as just a ritual. You were taught that. Your grandmother might have taught you. Now I pray over Lord, bless this food and help it to nourish the body, because we don't know what we're eating.
But I think that's completely connected to the whole thing about what he was talking about when you were a kid. You just see all those commercials about every disease known to man that you didn't know about, and now because of the way that we're growing our food and the chemicals and all of the things that are not natural that they're putting into the food that they sell to us that we consume, I believe that there's a direct connection between that and all these diseases that have popped up over the years.
Absolutely,
sure. Amen.
Well, can I say one thing? I know we're quick on time, but I'm working on a project in my desire to give back and all I've been through. And we use our misery for our ministry. So my oldest daughter and I are working on a project called We Care, and We Care. It's spelled WHE because greater is He that's in we than he that's in the world.
Boom.
And so it's, the link card is a government funded card that will allow you to get groceries, and, they got a medical card. Well, the We Care card would be a private funded nonprofit card that will help women who want to look and feel beautiful but can't afford to. Allow them to do that. So it may allow them to get their nails done or have a night out on the town or get their hair done. And I want to partner with organizations to fund this card. So like hairstylists, they might sow a seed into this project.
Massage therapists, I'll do it.
Thank you. See, and then the recipients have to pay it forward. So everybody has to put in and give back. So nobody's just sitting back. And so we're working on that. And in order to fund that, we're coming up with a t-shirt line that I'm hoping I can launch by the end of this month. It might be mid-April, that says We Care. And it will say on the back a t-shirt and a greeting card line. You don't have to look like what you've been through.
So you know what? We're going to bring you back to launch that. You wouldn't do that?
Awesome.
Seriously,
yes,
we can do that because we got so much. We're going to do a part 2 with you.
All right.
So I'm serious.
I love
you want to do that?
TP.
All right. Well, we got to get out of here, y'all. Thank once again for tuning into the TP Live Show, IntellectualRadio.com with Miss Felicia Owens and guest co-host K Joy, some lovely sisters. Let's kick it off with some knowledge. We're going to close out on some knowledge music. Can you dig it? Inspiration. And house.
Okay. Yo, expertise right there, right?
We get up, we talk, but we get